The Great Wall of China is the longest structure ever built on Earth. In its prime, the wall covered a length of over 7,000 kilometers, which is approximately the distance between New York and Milan. Just think about that. And if that's not impressive enough, let me tell you that the wall was entirely erected by hand. It is truly one of the greatest architectural and military wonders made by mankind. Although it isn't visible from outer space, as popularized by modern urban myth, it is still one of the most impressive human feats ever constructed. It stands alongside the likes of the Egyptian pyramids, Rome's Colosseum, India's Taj Mahal, and others as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Over hundreds of years, it has garnered the attention of historians, poets, writers, artists, and storytellers, attesting to the power struggles, social, economic, and historical events that were sparked by this great marvel. The Great Wall of China wasn't actually one big wall. It had several walls, an overlapping maze of ramparts and towers that were later unified into the Great Wall we know now, stretching across the vast lands of China and Mongolia. The construction of the wall took over 2,000 years altogether, but there were essentially 2 points in time where the majority of construction for the Great Wall took place. One was during the Qin and Han dynasties, and the other was during the Ming dynasty. The Great Wall of China, as it exists in popular imagination, the one we all know about or have probably seen, is entirely a product of the Ming dynasty, who built the wall mostly over the course of the 15th and 16th century. The construction of the wall was first started by the tyrannical Emperor Qin, starting in 2021 BC. After the death of Qin in 2008 BC, his evil empire collapsed and was taken up by the Han dynasty. The Hans were much more humane and left a technological legacy, one that includes producing paper. They extended the wall farther west, all the way across the Gobi Desert. Through the years, up until the Ming dynasty took over, other dynasties built more and more pieces of the wall, mostly to protect their local provinces. It wasn't until the Mings that the wall somewhat represented one continuous structure. The Great Wall of China wasn't an architectural project. It was a military project. It was there to deter any would-be raiders from the northern steppes and to prevent them from entering into Chinese territory for trade or exploitation. Defending the entirety of the wall by placing armies and archers across its full length would have been impossible. It would also spread the military too thin, so if there was a huge attack at one point, it would be hard to reassemble everyone in one place. This is the reason why the defense of the wall was strategically planned and concentrated on several key points. There were a huge number of army garrisons along the wall in certain provinces, and there were gatekeepers and gate forts. In sparsely populated areas, there was just a thin wall with the occasional guard overseeing the region. There were also beacon towers along the length of the wall at every peak, trough, and turn, which were used as smoke signals and signal fires to send word if the enemy was on the move. One of the main purposes of the wall was to act as a frontier to gain information on incoming attacks before they actually reached their destinations, so the defending forces could quickly be assembled to halt the attacks. During the Qin and Han dynasties, small subsections of walls were built up and linked together, but these small sections never became a single continuous wall. Obviously, this reduced the military effectiveness of the wall because the enemy could just navigate the length of the wall to get around it, or bribe their way in by paying off the guards. The enemies China had at the time were from the north: the Mongols, Jurchen, and Manchu. They were nomadic tribes that lived in the steppe region, which didn't have enough rainfall, so it was hard to settle down and practice agriculture. These people needed to live a nomadic lifestyle, moving on their horses and expanding into nearby areas. These nomadic warriors ransacked China's northern provinces. They pillaged cities, killed the citizens, and stole food and metals. What made the nomadic raiders so dangerous was not that they were overwhelmingly powerful, but that they were extremely mobile. By building a wall, the Qin could take away their greatest advantage, their mobility. The ancient Chinese were terrible at raising horses and producing high-quality cavalry that could defend against the nomads who were born and brought up in the saddle. This turned out to be a major problem for the Qin dynasty, and the wall acted as a protective boundary, stopping the nomads from entering into their cities. The wall divided civilized society from the barbarians. The emperor used soldiers, peasants, and even prisoners to build the wall. The prisoners were made to be distinguishable from the rest of the citizens by having their heads and faces blackened and chains put on their legs. They worked day and night to build the wall, and with its additional protection, the need for cavalry and horses was less essential, as the Qin could use infantry or foot soldiers for clashes within the wall. By the time of the Ming dynasty, 1,000 years had passed, but the threat of invasion from the northern steppe nomads still remained. Many cities by then had constructed smaller walls around their regions to protect them from the bandits, but the walls were mostly enclosed around the city itself. The Mings opened up the enclosed walls of various cities, extended them, and linked existing sections together into a more singular wall, which more closely resembles the Great Wall of China we see today. The wall was reinforced heavily, and any invasion to come along would likely be won by the defenders. But the Ming did lose and fall to the Manchu. Surprisingly, the fall of the Ming dynasty had nothing to do with the wall itself, but with their general named Wu Sangui, who let the Manchu army in an act of treason. The Manchus consolidated their power in China, and they already had firm control over the steppe people of the north, so the wall slowly fell into disuse. The Great Wall was also useful to have border controls and to collect taxes. You see, around the same time as the Great Wall's construction, the Silk Road was also booming. The Silk Road was an ancient trade route linking China with the West, including Eurasia and Europe. Merchants from all over Asia and Europe were traveling in their caravans along the Silk Road, passing through China to exchange exotic goods. The Europeans, especially the Romans, had gotten accustomed to a relatively lavish lifestyle and wanted to purchase exotic goods from all over the world, such as silk, which was popularly made in China. They were willing to spend huge amounts of money on these goods. Inevitably, where there's money to be made, nefarious activities take place. Bandits would often steal from the caravans of the merchants, especially in places away from the capital, where there wasn't much protection. Portions of the Great Wall were constructed so that bandits, such as the Xiongnu tribes, would not bother the merchants. The wall also allowed them to impose duties on the goods transported along the Silk Road, and to stop any unwanted entries into the kingdom. Today, as it stands, only 10% of the Great Wall sections are well preserved. 30% of the wall built during the Ming dynasty has now completely disappeared. A big portion of the Great Wall was made with earth and lime and even branches, which weren't solid enough to withstand the rains, storms, earthquakes, erosion, and other natural causes. Human influence also had a role to play here. For centuries, people living near the wall allowed their goats and cattle to graze on the wall. Years and years of this caused the brick and earth to collapse until some sections were entirely destroyed. It doesn't help that the Great Wall is now regarded as one of the wonders of the modern world and recognized as a World Heritage Site, which invites a huge number of tourists every year who end up causing damage to the wall by throwing rubbish, stealing bricks, and using it for graffiti. More than 70,000 people visit the Great Wall each day on average, forcing the Chinese government to put regulations for the protection of the wall in place. This great monument is now caught in between an impulse to preserve a great past and a desire to rush forward into the future. However events may play out, let us hope that it leads to preserving this splendid monument that has been part of our history for so very long.